Hi, we've been talking about the ways that we are still affected by popularity and why popularity is so important. And previously we talked about the ways that it might really be built into how our brains are set up and even how our DNA responds and is expressed. But I want to move on by talking a little bit about how popularity is of a defining age and every one of use actually thousands of time a day. Special we're going to talk about how few experiences which popularity when you were young after a lot of the was that we think about our social expressions. But before we do that, I'd like for you to watch this video. Just watch the video and you're going to be asked to say a little bit about what you saw in the video. So watch carefully. So what we're going to talk about now has been studied by psychologists for many years, and it's referred to as social information processing. Nikki Crick and Ken Dodge were among the first to develop a model. It's really a way of taking every single social experience you have and zooming is down into super slow mode. So if you were to take and think about all of that tiny little inconscious processes that are happening between the moment that you see something and the moment that you respond, you will develop them into a few different steps. So the first thing that happens is that there's an event. This could be a big event like sometime breaks up with you, or it could be a teeny little event like your weekend drawn crowd and sometimes knocks at you. Very simple. It turns out that in order for us to respond to that event, there are many little steps that happen. And the first one is whether or not we encode that event. So, for instance, if you were walking through a crowd and sometime nothing at you, you need not even notice it. You need be looking at somebody else, or you need be looking at your phone and staring else, or you need be assuming that one is interested in looking at you, so you don't really even edit to what happens. It's very common for professors to talk about taking in their class and rather than noticing all of the students that are looking at them and think of nogging. They really tend to focus on just those students that are looking down and clearly are doing Facebook with while they're lecturing, and that's really great example of crew go and coding. The idea that they tend to even just not something more than other and actually don't ever see the other things in their visual field at all. We want we uncle we see something and we included something and we say that our brain was brought into some attention to use. Then we have to interpret what's in that we've seen of heard of felt. And we call correct interpretation. And there are many different ways that we mean interpret what's in that we've just encoded, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. We after we've interpreted something then again really fast inconsequently. We don't even realize that we're doing is we then disguise what is our goal. What are we hoping to achieve in this protection situation? And that becomes an important step goal clarification. When we have a goal, we come up with a valley of possible things that we call to do to respond. We select one of those responses. Again, super fast. We're not ever we growing in that we follow drawn of that which respond and question. So in other words, we decide the kid to act out what it is that we say that we wrong wrote here that we wanted to do, and once we respond that often product a new event. So for instance, if this started by sometime nodding at you and you end up keeping to nod back, that night lead at them waving or saying he or something like that. If you decide instead to do something right to them, then that make legal to some sort of event where it would start a total new Google, and it happens again and again. Well, all of this happens based on all of our prior experiences. So every single experience that we've had social and stored in a database. And there's a usually good brain reason to say that when we look at how people respond to diggles, in often is involving centers of our brain involved in autobiographical memory. So we are very frequently drawing upon their old experiences. Particularly, it is turns out experiences which popularity is a way to understand how every social experience happens to us every single day to day, and sometimes we think about their steps very explicitly. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's talk about an example where we might see this play out, and I'm going to show you these different pretend people and how they might respond to a similar event. So, for instance, imagine that sometime walk by. They look at you, they smile, and they giggle a little bit. Well, imagine that in the core incubating step, the first person needs a look at that and say, I just have a person looking at me. Okay, so they, because of their database, they really attended to the logging. The second person needs to say, I just saw a person make you contact and smile. So they didn't really remember the logged in as much. Their students show that if you asked them later, they need no even recall that happened, or they might not even noticing it, but they really noticing the yeah count and the smile, and the trip person maybe that the king of person that does believe that no one would ever smile at them. They have a lifetime of radical or feeling that they're never noticing by anybody. They are students so little like to even nothing when people do look at them, so they need not even notice anybody. Well, the next step that would happen is that equal interpretation. So that first person needs say, I think that person was making fun of me. I say them king of laughing, and my automatic thought. They think I immediately so cash which that is. I think they were tasting my somehow, but maybe it's the second person walking off was really noticing the eye contact and the smile nigd interpret that by saying how. I think my bad person flirting with me, and of course the third person who didn't even see anybody would probably say what person. I don't even know what you talking about. So that's the end of them. The next step would be goal clarifications. So if you believe that someone has just listened you, that first person needs to say well. In this situation, I want to assert my Dominican. I really want to make sure that people don't test my and they know that in know the king of person that should really be treated that way. So maybe this their goal. But you know, sometime else need say, one hell, I'm actually scared. They tested me and I'm a little bit frightened